Shalom. Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakaha Kodash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the elect of the nation of Israel. This is your brother Ayash Gabar from the GMS Virginia camp, coming at you with another lesson that I pray that you find edifying through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai. And this is a little quick hit, off of an article I seen right here, off of Shit Hit the Fan Plan.com, and the title of it reads, Trump's executive order, Genesis mission ensures digital prison for all. And, this is just one step closer to the MOTB where you Jakes already have a digital ID associated with you, and that's your social security number. But he wants to take that even further, you know what I'm saying? He wants to make it something that's embedded within you that, that will control everything that you do, and everything that you're allowed to do. So, going on with the article, and by the way, this is dated November 28th, 2025, so, it's about a week old, and the title of it reads, Donald Trump, the current ruler of the United States, not the current president, but the current ruler of the United States, has signed an executive order titled Genesis Mission, which will ensure we have a digital prison where the power lies with the state. The left-right paradigm lies have never been more apparent as both sides seek to ultimate control over others. Biblically named, Genesis Mission ensures total control of AI regulations are in the hands of the state, furthering Trump's commitment to ensure the government grows and no state can constitutionally oppose anything he does, writes the World Alternative Media, under the description of the YouTube video about this executive order. And the PSYOP continues. Christian nationalism is on the rise. Going on with the article, the new AI regulations comes as a $500 billion investment in AI technology. The big beautiful bill gives further billions and makes it so AI can completely control nuclear energy and weaponry at the same time as AI materialism deals are signed with Saudi Arabia and Qatar, and at the same time as Israel utilizes Palantir AI drones to indiscriminately attack people and decide who can or who cannot eat rations, wrote Wham, and all of this is tying into the MOTB, as I said earlier, as a matter of fact, let me grab that right quick because, that's a major prophecy, that's coming down the pipe, and a lot of people ain't ready for it, a lot of people can't see it, and a lot of people don't believe that we're in that time, you know what I'm saying? Because, they're just blinded, to what's going on. The book of Revelation, chapter 13, and I'll start at verse 16. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. And that's what this devil is setting up for. You know what I'm saying? He's setting the system up for the MOTB, and as the article just stated, a lot of people aren't going to be able to eat. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people won't be able to get rations, you know? Continuing on with the article, let me see how much more of this it is. I'm just going to read a part of it, but, like I said, if brothers want to read the article and get, deeper into it, it's on shithitthefanplan.com. But going on with the article, it reads, the Elon Musk and Trump feud looks like it may have been a distraction from the big, beautiful bill's intent, which is totalitarian control over human beings. And that's exactly what it was. Look here while I do this. Don't look here while I do this, but pay attention, to Didi and, Baby Oil and Simply Pink or whatever the fuck their names are. Look over there, but don't look at what we're doing here. I need to keep you distracted with bullshit while I put shit in order that's going to control your lives. Reading that paragraph again. The Elon Musk and Trump feud looks like it may have been a distraction from the big, beautiful bill's intent, which is totalitarian control of human beings. Josh Sugarston lays out the horrifying reality of these rulers giving themselves power over everyone else in this video. While the Genesis mission was signed to completely regulate AI, all of the power to do that now rests in the hands of the ruling class, people who pay no price for being wrong. And a lot of people, even though a lot of you Jakes specifically are asleep to what's going on, a lot of people are starting to realize that they've been duped. A lot of people are starting to come to the realization that, the world is controlled by a very few, rich elites, and at some point, there's going to be some pushback on that. But, that's something that's going to happen at a later time. But right now, this devil is setting up his system, to fall into place. So when shit goes left, and they think that they're going to be able to, forward their enterprise to its fruition, they would already have these things in place. But Yahweh Shem Yahushua is about to put a monkey wrench in all his shit, Salakia, I just got off of the plantation not too long ago, so I'm yawning. So Salakia for that. Reading on with the article, Sugarston points out that the name of the executive order, the Genesis mission, says it all. Genesis, meaning the beginning of life, could signify the end of human life and the beginning of AI's takeover. Peter Thiel infamously wants humans and machines to be integrated entirely, making the beginning of the fully controllable, programmable human that will never step out of line because they will be beholden to the technocracy, and that's what they want. So the minute you Jakes accept this man's mark, in your right hand and in your forehead, especially in your forehead, in your left hand for sure, but in your forehead, that's his way of cutting you off of your spiritual, connection to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, That's why the Lord said, don't take his mark. Don't take what, this devil wants to give you, because once you do that, ain't no coming back from what you've done. You're not going to be able to put this in your body and then turn around 5 minutes later and say, I changed my mind. No, not at all. Because at that point, even before that point where you decide to want to take it out, you were a willing party. You were a willing participant in what this man had to give you, what this man was offering unto you. So, don't, a lot of jakes are going to have no faith in that day. A lot of jakes are, a lot of jakes are going to accept this mark. A lot of jakes are going to be put to death. But, the same breath, a lot of you jakes are going to take this mark, because you're not going to have the protection of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. You're not going to have the guidance, you're not going to have the names of Yahweh Yahushai in that day, So a lot of you jakes are just going to be running off of the flesh. You're going to be just trying to survive rather than, going off of faith, going off of the words of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai and what he said that he would do for his elect. So, hey, this devil is setting things in order. He's laid a trap. Salakia. This devil's laying that trap. That's going to catch a lot of you jakes out there. Now, don't get it twisted. He's going to also lay this trap for his own people as well. Which goes to show you about, like how this man don't give a shit about nothing. You know what I'm saying? Because he don't give a shit about his own people. He's going to allow his own people, to be subjugated unto him, along with you jakes. But, we don't give a fuck about these other heathen nations. It's all about Yasharallah, the elect of Yasharallah at this point at the end of the day. Let me see. Reading on with the article, Peter Thiel of Palantir was a main donor of Donald Trump's campaign and was tapped by the ruler, and they keep calling this man the ruler, to create a master database on all Americans. Thiel and Alex Karp are working closely with Trump and Elon Musk to establish a massive hive mind system of surveillance. Wham writes further, as Sergerston explains. And that's what he did from day one. He brought in all these technocrats, to set these things up. And then after the setup was in place, they went ahead and gave these technocrats military authority, that's higher than some individuals who have been in the military for the entire career. Here it is, you have a guy right out of fucking college, who's a lieutenant general type shit, you know what I'm saying? Which should have told you people that what's going on is beyond what they're telling you. But, a lot of you people are so fucking blinded that, you just can't believe it. Even though it's happening right in front of your face, you can't believe it. You can't believe it's not butter. You can't believe that this devil ain't setting you up. Why? Because of your hatred for Jake has been so blinding to you, your hatred for whatever, or not even your hatred, the love for you have for Babylon the Great is so great that you don't even think that they're even setting you up to be destroyed. And a lot of you jakes are gonna get caught out there. You heathen are gonna get caught out there too, but you jakes are gonna get caught out there. Salakia brothers. Salakia brothers. Reading on with the article. The timing is also coincidental, as Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom rolls out mandatory digital IDs alongside the European Union, which is launching a central bank digital currency, a CBDC. Canada's Mark Carney told COP30 that he was planning to use AI data centers to pay carbon credits. This is getting incredibly dystopian. You fucking think? This video, while 25 minutes long, is well worth your time to watch. Sergeston dug deep on this one, and it just shows how the rulers continue to lock us down while we are distracted and divided so that they can maintain power forever. He does a great job of rolling out these three issues together to show just how screwed we are if we continue down the path of having a ruling class. And you think that you can make the change, but you're not going to be able to make the change. You know, the scriptures say that a man's going is of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. You know, you have no control over, what Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai ordains. You know, but even though, this devil is setting up this type of system, it's not going to come to pass. Let me wrap up this last article and break out some scriptures and close out. The best you can do is stop believing that others have the right to rule you and you have the right to elect a master over others. We need to come together and realize that the left and the right are on the same side. Yeah, right. Well, I mean, that's partially right. You know what I'm saying? Yahweh Bashem Yahushai sets up one, and brings down another. So whoever the Lord ordains to rule over you is who's going to rule over you, But one truth about that is the left side and the same side, or the left side and the right side, the left wing and the right wing is of the same bird, and you may have come to that conclusion now, but, you're a day late and a dollar short. This devil's already set up and he's ready to go at any moment. And that's what you people don't understand. You seem to think that, you got time. You seem to think that you got 5, 6, 7, 10 years. And in some cases, some of you people actually think that you have 100 fucking years. Nah, you ain't got that far off. I mean, you ain't got that long to go. Time is short. And this devil has got you deceived. So I'm gonna break out a few scriptures and close out. Because ultimately, this devil wants to put everyone into subjection under him. The book of Romans chapter 11 and verse 4. But what hath the answer of the Most High unto him? I have reserved myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to Baal. And that number 7 is the number of completion. There's a set number of men that will not bow the knee to Baal. That those are the men of the elect. The elect man ain't gonna sit here and, accept the MOTB. The elect man ain't gonna, lean on Egypt for help. The elect man is gonna turn into Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. And so while a lot of these people are, falling for the okie doke, struggling and, begging for food and something to drink, the elect of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua will have faith and that they will be delivered in that day, or in the days that are coming, The book of Lamentations, chapter 4 and verse 17. As for us, our eyes as yet failed for our vain help. Yeah, it's vanity to sit back and think that, you're going to get help from someone other than Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. In our watching, we have watched for a nation that cannot save us. These devils can't save you. In fact, these devils are putting you into further subjugation. These devils are furthering the oppression. when your when your punishment is almost at an end. You know, this devil is tightening that noose. You know, he's making things more and more harder for you jakes, you know. They hunt our steps that we cannot go in our streets. And that's what's coming in a big way. They're going to be able to hunt your steps in the street. They're going to be able to hunt your steps to the point where you're not going to be able to go in the street, you know. When you go into the book of Second Esdras, you know, it's, it's just going to be a straight out, you know, battle royale out here in these streets, you know. And these devils are going to hunt your steps that you cannot go into our streets, you know, when they lock everything down, you know, when they start having these curfews and these Gurga troops start roaming around, you know, they're going to be able to lock this fucking place down and you're not going to be able to go into a next city, you know. Our end is near, our days are fulfilled, our end is come, you know. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup shall pass unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken, and thou shalt make thyself naked. And you are drunken, and you're being made naked by the words of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. You know, your skirt is being lifted in terms of what you have set your heart to do. You know, I mean, you're going to be able to fool the 2/3. You're going to be able to, you know, fool a lot of these other nations, but you're not going to be able to fool the elect of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. You know, the punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away in captivity. And that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to put everyone of the nation of Israel back into captivity, you know, because he knows that his time is near. You know, he knows that, you know, his end is come or is coming. And what he's doing very sloppily, you know, is trying to forward, you know, his enterprise. You know, he shall no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins. And the men of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, the prophets of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, are constantly telling this devil that, you know, he's gonna pay for what he's done. You know, he's not going to be able to fulfill his enterprise because Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai is going to get him while he's eating. As a matter of fact, as he's cutting that steak about, you know, like when he's ready to dine down and you know, enjoy his meal, you know, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai is going to be like, gotcha, bitch. You know, he ain't going to be able to get away with what he's doing. But in his mind, he actually thinks that, you know, he's going to fulfill it. The book of Obadiah, chapter 1 and verse 3, the pride of thine heart has deceived thee, and your heart is your mind, your love. The pride of thine heart has deceived thee, thou that dwelleth in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down into the ground? Because, you know, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai is long-suffering, you know, and you actually think that the Lord is with you in what you're doing, when in fact, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai got your ass in a trick bag. You know, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. You know, ever since this devil went into space and had his space, you know, stations and did all this stuff that he actually thinks or thought that he came up with himself, you know, he's deceived himself. You know, he's become prideful. You know, he's become the destroyer of worlds because, you know, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai put the spirit upon him to create the, you know, the nuclear weapons, you know, not realizing that's he created the Smith, to create a weapon that's going to destroy himself, you know. And that's the trick bag that he's in. Yahweh Hashem Yahushua put the spirit on him to create the weapon that's going to destroy him. Come on, bro. So yeah, this devil is definitely full stream ahead. Information is coming out on a daily in terms of, what his plans are. And we, Salakia Akim, and we as the prophets of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua has got to constantly warn the people of, these up and coming dangers. We have to stand upon our watch, and, warn the people until Yahweh Hashem Yahushua tells us to no longer do that. And we're vastly approaching that day where the famine of the word is about to be, upon us. So, I ain't going to drag it on. I think the point's been made that, this devil is full stream ahead, in terms of what he wants to do. But at the end of the day, they have devised a plan of total slavery. But Yahweh Hashem Yahushua said that he shall no longer carry thee away again in captivity. So, with that, I'd like to give all praise, glory, and honors to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushua, Bahashem Rakaha Kodash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, peace and salutations unto the elect of the nation of Israel. Shalom.